by chance, I'm up in the middle of the night, and I just thought I would share some impressions I have that go against a little bit of the popular grain at the moment. I just returned from Wales, and I'd also made a trip while I was there to Liverpool, and therefore traveled across the border between Wales and England. And the length of the country, I mean, the length of England anyway, I didn't get to Scotland. And I had an impression that I've described and summarized in the title of this series of podcasts, which is Unbroken Britain, Views from the Passing Lane. And I just found a number of things which worked, that were very successful, very satisfying, that were uh, clearly British, not only taking place in Britain, but somewhat in the spirit of the most progressive, effective, efficient, enjoyable aspects of the country. In a time when there's a lot of discontent and complaint, and the catchphrase has been "broken Britain," which is used in a variety of contexts for a lot of reasons, some of them more plausible than others. But I just thought I would reverse the perspective and say, now, maybe there are things which don't work, and there are complaints about things which don't work, and it's not a happy time to be British, if you will. But despite that, from my experience of traveling, um, I had a very favorable impression of the country. Um, and therefore, I just wanted to talk about briefly about it this morning before I go back to bed, or back to sleep anyway. Now, just to give you a notion of what I mean. Quite by chance, earlier in the year, and this began this impression, I took the train, which I had done for ages, from Cardiff to Shrewsbury. And as we traveled along, the snow was quite deep, and the train had to proceed slowly at points because the boughs of the trees were so burdened with snow that the top of the train, the roof, so to speak, would bang into them. And so we proceeded very slowly, but simply beautiful. And though the noise of the thumping of the boughs on the top of the train were somewhat disconcerting, um, it was a splendid journey. And Shrewsbury, of course, if you know it, is a very, very fine city, and I always enjoy going there. It's one of my favorite places in what you might, the boundary between the Midlands and the north of England. And that set the scene for a later trip, which is the one I'm describing now. Very briefly, I went up to Liverpool, and I had not been to Liverpool before, and the thing that had always interested me was the Lady Lever Art Gallery there. But I went up, and a friend of mine took me around his city, and I enjoyed it enormously. And things that statistically seem to be untrue, but were, to my experience, very true, was the fact that the people, anyway, on the weekend in Liverpool were fit and trim and energetic and having a good time. And a couple of the experiences had restaurants and went to a major bookstore in the center of the city and had an excellent time. And just this, everything, it was super. It was really, really good. And the people I stayed with, um, my friend and his family, were really good company and quite amusing and varied in their orientation and pursuits and interests and what have you. But it was simply a very, very agreeable toing and froing. Use the transport system. And as we went up the transport system, as it turned out, the railway company was very unhappy with the fact that the way carriages are rationed at certain parts of the day, because the government, apparently, the Ministry of the Department of Transport, they say now, has a large say in these things. And we were reminded every half hour that if we were unhappy with the crowding on the train, we should complain to the Department of Transport. So it was sort of a political message. And this, again, would fall into this rubric of broken Britain. But nevertheless, I understand what that means, but it's not all broken by a long chalk. The old girl has lots of life left in her. And I think with some proper direction, a better, re energized, elite, ruling class, if you will, governors, if you will, politicians, if you will, that things can be made to move. I think we're going through a generational change, and some of the things that worked and didn't work about the old generation, of course, passing it, because my generation, the boomers, are passing. If not actually dying off, then we're releasing our hand on the levers of power outside the ballot box, mind you. So anyway, this is just an optimistic, enjoyable thing, and it's consistent with the pleasant agreeableness, really, of my life in Cardiff. My favorite of all British cities. Not the most beautiful. I mean, I spent a long time in Oxford and Dora, Cambridge, of course, and Bath is a remarkable gem. But Cardiff is home, and I'm very, very fond of it, and it works. That's my thing. To be continued.